I'm going to make a pack of technical drawings for this, all drawn by hand. In this video it will be a plan, 2 side views or elevations, and a drawing showing a section cut through of the building. The end result will be what you saw in the thumbnail of this video. I've already gotten started here on the side by laying out guidelines to position my plan and whatever else I draw. To do this, I've already decided what size the garage is going to be. The sliding rule on this Priory crosswire drawing board helped me to set the borders and lines easily. If you're interested in getting this drawing board, I've put a link in the description so you can find it. And if you use the code DrawTech10 at the checkout, you'll get 10% off your purchase at the Big Orchard website. Back to the drawing. In today's age, we use drawing softwares on computers to draw with. We can create a drawing and change it however we like, and position it however we like on the sheet, in the CAD programs. When hand drawing this, however, I have to already know what the end result is going to look like, and I have to position the end drawing on the sheet by planning it from the beginning. And I can't edit my lines and move them around once I've drawn them. Of course, I am drawing it in pencil first so that, if needed, I can reposition the lines, but once I've gotten far enough ahead with a pencil drawing, I'm not going to want to erase it and start again. So I've checked how big a 1:50 scale of the drawing will show on the page, and I use a scale rule to help mark out the edge boundaries of the garage. When I'm happy with them, I'll go over them with a pen to finalize the lines. The size of the small garage I'm drawing here is 5.4 meters by 3 meters. You'll see the overall dimensions for it all right at the end. I've decided to go over the external wall on the garage plan in pen early, just to set it in place since I'm happy with how I've positioned it. It's a tense atmosphere when going over it in pen because I have to be very careful and focused so that I don't ruin the drawing. It's not easy to keep a constant state of focus maintained, especially when recording a video of myself drawing the lines. It adds to the pressure, and I have to work around the camera, which could potentially lead to irreparable errors. Well, it's not totally irreparable. Someone I know who started off in this industry, having to hand draw everything, told me that he would have a bottle of Tipp-Ex handy to cover any mistakes or make changes for a revision. I'll have to get some. I remember using Tipp-Ex at school a long time ago, but I haven't seen one in ages. I think I've seen them still being sold at stationery stores. I'm surprised they're still going in this age. In this video, I'm using technical drawing pens with different thicknesses to try and add line weight to the drawing. I'm using 0.5mm for the cut lines and outlines, 0.3mm for the internal components, and 0.1mm for the smaller details. I lost my focus for a second there and have made an error. I drew the line right out of the building and I don't have any Tipp-Ex. I've gone and redrawn the whole thing. It didn't take too long as I had the measurements from the previous drawing, which I ruined. I've also drafted out the elevation already, almost ready to go over it in pen. I just want to draw the brickwork hatch lines to make the elevation look good. The lucky part is that the length of the garage plan here is in actual brick dimensions. The width is set at 3 meters, which is almost brick dimensions. I should increase it to 3,150, the next brick dimension up on the brick dimension chart. But this is just a drawing that I'm doing in my room. It's not going to be sent out anywhere to be approved and built. But I think a builder would be quite happy with the brick dimensions on the drawing. I would just increase the one side to 3.15 meters to make their lives easier. Buildings have to be planned with practical thought. My seniors always tell me that when I do a drawing, that I should always be asking questions and thinking how my drawing would work in real life. How would it actually fit together? Because a builder has to follow it and put the darn thing together. I can talk more about this when I come to doing construction details for this little garage. You've probably noticed that I'm marking the mortar between the bricks as a single line. This is because the drawing is scaled at 1:50. If it had been a 1:20 scale drawing, I would have drawn the mortar in more detail, since the scale would allow me to show more detail. And if it had been a 1:100 scale drawing, I wouldn't have even drawn the vertical mortar lines, only the horizontal ones. This is the right way to decide what details to include in the drawing. It depends on the scale of the drawing. There's no need to draw to a tiny microscopic level. For some reason I had to be told this. If I were left on my own, I would probably try to draw each miniature sand grain with a hair dipped in a bottle of ink. There's no need for all of that, thankfully. Details on a plan can be simplified and then further explained with a more close-up detail drawing, where the complete detail can be drawn at a 1:5 scale. Once I've finished drawing all the brick lines, which I admit doesn't look great when you inspect them closely. However, it doesn't look so bad when you look at it overall. The hatch does the job of conveying the information. I'll have to practice the hatch drawing some more because it's not like AutoCAD where you just click and drop a hatch into a shape. But as I said, it doesn't look so bad. There are some bits that I could have done better, but it's nothing to cry about. I just don't want to scrunch the paper up again. I'm marking the windows with a 0.3mm pen. A good idea to make them stand out before inking in the brick lines, or I might run the pen over into the window and have to start again, or go out and get a bottle of Tipex. The outlines are marked in a thicker pen than the thin lines on the inside, a way to make the windows stand out as a feature. If you look closely, you might notice a happy little accident. On the second course of bricks from the ground, I marked the line off slightly, so I marked another one in a futile attempt to move it, while I was annoyed at the mistake permanently scarred in ink. I realized that it stands out as the DPC layer, 150mm off the ground, as the regulations usually say. So this is a happy accident that will be further explained in a detailed drawing later down the line. With the first elevation done, I'll move on to the second one showing the front face of the garage. I won't record much of this process because I want to draw one of the elevations, at least with full concentration, and not worry about getting in the camera's way. Sometimes I have to bend around the camera in funny ways to make sure that it can see what I'm doing on the page. And this means that I can't draw as comfortably as I would like to. We'll see if this makes a difference in the end. I can use the plan drawing to help mark out the exact measurement of the elevation without having to look at numbers. Just by using two useful tools, a compass and a divider. These tools are good for transferring measurements around the page or onto other drawings. While inking this drawing in, which looks nice overall, we've had 3 happy accidents. The first one, I drew a line and one of my fingers was in the way, displacing the pen, but it kind of looks like a natural wood grain mark. The second is a smudge from moving the rule away too quickly. Smudges are looked down on in technical drawings, so I'll consider this unacceptable. And at the top here I've overdrawn the line. This was kind of an innocent mistake. I used this protractor that had guidelines on it, and I mistook one of the guidelines as a line that I had to connect to. So I ended up trying to connect to a point on the protractor instead of the drawing. A note for the future to use a plane ruler instead of this one. While it's there now, I could drag it out and turn it into a leader line or an arrow for some annotation, so all is not lost. Now by using the divider, I'm marking out the suitable position for the cross-section drawing that will go on the top right corner of the sheet. The handy compass that I use in combo with the divider needs a sharpening. The outer side of the lead has to be shaped like a chisel. It stays sharper for longer this way, apparently. Before I draw the cross section, I did a quick sketch to give an idea of how it's supposed to look. I want to make the finished floor level clear, which will be level with the outside ground, and show the substructure as well as the foundation. I think a raft foundation would be suitable for a small building that might house a car. If this were real, I would point out that it's to be designed by a structural engineer, and that my design is only indicative. The structural responsibility should be rightly shifted to the appropriate specialist. Also for the roof, I will draw an indicative Fink truss design, which is also noted to be designed by the truss manufacturer. My design is only indicative. I've already gotten started with the main components under the roof and underground. I'll fill in the hatch details for these shortly. Now I'm moving on to drawing the roof truss. I have two methods for drawing this geometrically accurately. A long way of drawing it, using geometry drawing principles, and a short way of drawing it by taking advantage of the angles provided by the set squares. But first I attempt a crude way of drawing it in case it works. The bottom rafter is easy enough to set. I want the pitched rafters to be the same depth as the horizontal one. So I use my compass to find the depth and attempt to transfer the depth in a crude way. I thought I would try it, but it ended up looking uneven and scruffy. It doesn't seem to even line up correctly. I should have just used the proper techniques. I'll show both techniques, starting with the long way, using geometrical drawing principles. With a compass, I mark a circle whose center starts at the roof's ridge, and the radius crosses the eaves of the roof. Then I center the compass point from one of the eaves, and the radius is to cross the ridge of the roof. I only want to mark an arc like this, as you can see. Now where the newly drawn arc crosses the circle at 2 points, I want to draw a straight line that crosses these 2 points. And the same for the other side. Now thanks to this new line, which is perpendicular to the roof pitch line, I can take the depth of the horizontal rafter and transfer it accurately to the new lines as demonstrated. This part is a bit tricky, mostly because my hand is in the way of the camera. But the principle is the same. where the point for the rafter depth is marked on the new lines. Using them as centers, I can mark out new circles. And from the perpendicular lines, I can use the same method as before to draw a straight line for the rafter depth. If that doesn't appear to be clear, I have a video here which I've already made showing how to draw perpendicular lines and other geometrical techniques. Learning these will help solve some of the geometry problems that are encountered when doing technical drawings. Now, to make things much easier and avoid having to do all of that, if you have a 30, 60, 90 set square, then it will work out everything for you so that you don't have to. That's if your roof pitch is 30 degrees. Do you see how the lines I've drawn match up with the set square? I can use the 45 degrees set square with the first set square to mark small perpendicular lines. These small lines will help me mark the depth of the middle rafters, which join up to the bottom of the ridge or apex of the truss. I'm a right-handed person. Sometimes I find that I have to draw with my left hand. There's no escape from it. So I just try to be extra careful when using my left hand to draw. It's a bit of a practice to become ambidextrous, even though most of the accuracy is taken care of by the technical drawing tools anyway. The lines for the truss are all inked in. Now I'm going to fill the cross section with hatches to indicate different materials. I don't think I need to be so accurate or careful with drawing the hatches, but I'm using the dividers anyway to mark out consistent segments in the walls for the brick hatch cut pattern that I'm going to draw. The brick hatch is done. I've messed it up on one little part, but it's not a big deal, or even if it does bother me very slightly. Also, one thing that I forgot to do was to show a cut through of the window in the wall. What a missed opportunity. However, I'm probably going to show this in a detailed drawing video in a related future video. I've gone ahead and filled in the hatches. Off camera, I've added in extra details like the annotation for the FFL, the finished floor level. I've also put in dimensions on every elevation, as well as guidelines for the annotation text that I'll put on the cross section. Carefully removing the sheet from the drawing board because I want to fill in the text and the numerical annotations on a flat desk. I have more control over my handwriting on a flat desk. With my scale rule, I'm going to go around to double check the measurements of the whole plan. With the text annotation here, I think I've bunched them up way too closely. They look a bit squashed, but it's readable, I suppose. Next time I'll space them out a bit better. In the next video, I'm going to mark out small sections of the cross section and draw blow-up details for each part, like the foundations, the wall base and head joint, the roof, the window, and whatever else I can think of.